Amazing day and an amazing start to the week. Now, meditation is still 30 minutes from now, but I'm coming on early to interview the one and only Glennon Doyle. I'm so excited for this. Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? Okay, it's here. So, oh, wait, let me get it. Here it is. So, I am excited. Where is my friend? Where are you, Glennon? Let me know where you are once you've joined in. Oh, there you are. You're already here. Amazing. Okay, I am so excited for this. Here we go. So I'm adding Glennon. Chat. Here we go. Okay, she's coming.
We did it!
Glennon, how's it going?
Hi, Jay. How are you?
I'm good. It's so good to see you. How are you?
Oh, I'm so good. I've had my 13 mugs of coffee. I am raring to go. I'm going to be amazing for about 45 minutes, and then I'm going to crash.
I love it. Well, you only have to do it for 30. So you know, like you've got an extra 15 minutes of energy to save. But yeah, everyone, I am so excited. I'm speaking with Glennon Doyle, the author of Untamed, as you can see here. This beautiful cover that I've just been loving ever since I received it and saw it. And I'm going to put the link to this book in the comments for Amazon. So make sure, I'm going to pin it to the top. Make sure you go out and get this book. It's available right now. Glennon came on the podcast. We literally recorded it last Thursday.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, we recorded it last Thursday. The podcast comes out today. And for those of you who are ahead of LA, i.e. London and everywhere else in the world, I know so many of you have been listening to it already and you're loving it. And literally it was one of my favorite conversations, Glennon. And that's why I wanted to do this with you, because it just, you know, when you have one of those conversations where you feel like you're learning when you're talking to someone and you're having your own revelations, that's how I felt. And so I'm really hoping that everyone who listens to it today, when you're listening to it, do the activities that Glennon says. If she asks a question, ask that question in your own head. If she is talking about reflection she had, apply it to your own life. Glenn, tell me your thoughts on why you think we learn from conversations so much. Like, why are conversations so powerful, especially listening in as well?
Okay, here's what I don't understand how you do this, but it's so weird that you asked me that, because Abby and I have literally been talking about the art of conversation all morning.
No way.
I've been writing about
crazy.
it.
You're
because
kidding me.
Yeah, no, because she was asked to do this like kind of commencement speech, and we were thinking about what's the most important thing you could tell a bunch of kids in this moment, and both of us decided listening. How to listen is the most important. We don't teach it. We have a lot, I think, maybe lost the art of it, which is so sad, because I think conversation is one of the ways we become. Right? It's how we become. Like, if you enter a conversation in a certain way where you are, which is I think what we were doing in our conversation, where we're really present with each other. We are listening, not like to talk next, but in a very surrendered, open, curious way, listening in a way to be changed, right? It becomes one of the most important tools in the world that we can use to become whatever we're supposed to become next. Right? I feel like we should have listening courses in school.
I could agree more, just as you're saying that. And by the way, basically me and Abby are best friends behind your back, and she tells us everything you talk about, because there's no other way for me to know. But when as you're saying that, what I'm thinking of is there are three things that came to my mind that I'm usually doing when I'm listening to someone. And what I'm usually doing is I'm either reflecting their experience onto mine. So if someone says, oh, I saw a really good movie the other day, the first thing in my mind goes, well, I saw a really good movie the other day. Or if someone goes, I went on a really good vacation last year, well, then my mind goes either I went on a really good vacation or I didn't. So I project and reflect constantly. Another negative listening habit I have is that I judge the other person, right? So you make a judgment of them. Like, you're like, oh, they're a bit shallow, or, oh, they're not as smart as I thought, or whatever it is. You make a judgment. And then the third thing that I think that I do is you try and complete people's sentences. So you're like Google autofill, or whatever it's called, on, you know, when you're typing in on a question on Google, and you're like completing everyone's sentences as if you already know what they're going to say, and you're this auto predict, and you're predicting, but actually that prediction could completely be wrong.
Yeah.
And it was really funny that I remember being asked this question long before I ever made videos, but I used to give a lot of speeches. And I remember someone coming up to me, a student at this university called Queen Mary's London University. And he came up to me and he said to me, how do you, when you're answering questions, because I used to do long Q&As, and he goes, how do you listen to everyone's question as if it was you'd heard it for the first time, even though you've probably heard it a million times? And the funny thing was, I don't think I actually practiced that. But since he said that to me to that day, still since that day, anytime someone asks me a question, I've always tried to be like, this may be my 1000th time, but for that person, it's the first time. And so this is my first time. And it's only because he asked me that question, I was so embarrassed, because my answer was, well, no, I really think it's the 1000th.
Well, yes.
Yeah.
I've been developing that practice for decades.
Yeah, exactly, which I hadn't at all. Anyway, Untamed, this conversation that we had about this incredible book that I'm really, really recommending to everyone right now. I think it's really powerful for right now. Glenn, tell us a bit about why you think it's going to help people right now with the current pain that we're going through and the current scene that we're in. Like, why is it relevant to right now?
Well, it's so weird that it came out right now. I don't know. I think that one of the reasons is it's a lot about what to do with pain, right? It's a lot about, I mean, we're in this moment, Jay, we talked about a little bit on the podcast, where there's so much pain going on out there, and it's all different for everybody, but we're all experiencing loss, right? The loss of what was. And that's so hard to deal with. But then the second thing is happening, which is that we're all stuck in our homes without all the distractions that we use to try to forget what we know about life, which is that we are all incredibly vulnerable and no one's in control. And at the end of the day, we just have each other and ourselves, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So I think we keep ourselves shaken up all the time, and now we're stuck in it. And we don't have any of the busyness or the things we convince ourselves are so important to distract ourselves from what is true about being human. And that reminds me a lot of early recovery. I'm sober for how long now? 18 years. And recovery in the beginning is just that. It's like a losing of all of the distractions. It's like a great settling of the snow globe. And there's a lot in the book in Untamed about what we do with that discomfort of being human. Because Jay, it goes back to the conversation stuff too. One of the reasons we're always finishing each other's sentences or thinking about what's next is because we are so uncomfortable with the stillness that might come after the other person stops talking. Right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. And what I think is that all the things we are afraid of is where all the magic happens, right? Like the magic happens when we stop and we're still. The magic happens in a conversation when you let the other person's thing just sit for a minute and you don't try to fix it or compare it or, you know, it took me forever to realize, oh, I'm supposed to be looking at other people not as mirrors, but as like masterpieces.
Wow.
Right? Not because I used to do that with other women, Jay, all the time. Like I would look at another woman and I was tamed to see other women as a reflection of myself. Right? So like everything that's beautiful about you, really what it is just an indictment of everything that's not beautiful about me.
Wow.
Right?
Wow. And that's hard to live like that.
It's exhausting and sweaty and miserable, and you're bitter all the time and you never make any real friends.
Yeah. How can you? How can you? And how is it that, you know, what I find really interesting about that is whenever you encourage people to sit in their discomfort because it's so uncomfortable, our default reaction of all humans is to go, no, I don't want to do that. Or this is weird. How have you become more comfortable with the discomfort? Like, what have you done in your life to not that it's easy now, but that you've encouraged yourself or coached yourself to make it easier to approach it, not just squash it, but to approach it every time?
Well, okay, I kind of think of it, first of all, I had no choice, all right, because I had to get sober because I was pregnant. I mean, honestly, I don't know if I would have voluntarily volunteered for this life of sobriety because it's really hard, right? Sobriety is just like dealing with life and pain on its own terms without deflecting any of it or avoiding any of it. It's very difficult. But I think maybe I just had enough practice over time. I think about it in terms of, okay, I'm married to this former Olympian woman, okay? She does all of these workouts today. They are so hard and so scary and so just voluntarily brutal, okay? It's like, what is she doing in there? But she does it even though it's hard because it grows her body, because it like makes her stronger, all of these things. And I think, first of all, I don't believe in that. But I believe in it spiritually and emotionally, right? That's what I choose to do. I choose to like go into the pain and sit with that discomfort, even though it hurts, because I can tell over time that it's made me a stronger, better, braver, less fearful person. Mm-hmm. Because I have never been able to get rid of all the pain in my life. I'm a deeply sensitive person and I feel a hell of a lot of pain every single day. And no matter how much I know up here, it doesn't save me from that. Mm. But I have been able to become less afraid of pain.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So like when it comes now, there's the me that's in the pain that feels really angry or jealous or fearful. It's often scarcity for me. It's like, there's not enough. There's never going to be enough. I need to grab, blah, blah, blah. But now there's this other part of me that's like, oh, you sweet little idiot, right? This is that time where you're miserable and you're going to freak out for a little while. But you're going to sit with it. You're not going to put it on anybody else. You're going to just let it pass. Mm. And it'll, Jay, it just like guides you towards something.
Yeah, but that's a great analogy that you've shared in terms of what Abby does. And it's like any growth, even physical or mental or emotional, comes through a bit of pain. It comes through that resistance. It comes through, whether you're lifting weights or trying to run a marathon, or whether you're trying to process and sprint through all your challenges and problems and growth, right? It's a great analogy that you're sharing of there's not really any of the growth in life that comes without a bit of discomfort, right? I don't think anyone looks for, it's funny because all of us know in our life that any growth, any gain has come through, not necessarily pain, but through discomfort, right? Mm-hmm. There has been some discomfort, whether it was going to college or whether it was working hard at school or whatever it was that you were into, or whether it was writing this book, right? This takes discomfort to write a book like this, not only in the structuring and the process and the writing, but the actual outpouring of your heart. It's a tough process. So I think we forget that. It's weird that we constantly go, okay, I know discomfort leads to growth, but I'm going to constantly choose comfort. It's like this weird, like it's a really interesting mindset, how we're constantly trying to find the easiest path or the simplest or the one of least, not even least resistance, but just least effort. But that leads to,
it's like, I feel like sometimes our being human beings is just all about figuring out the system and then trying to beat the system.
Yeah.
Our whole life.
Yeah. Yeah. So true.
Because we feel like there could be a better system. Like if it were me, I wouldn't choose this discomfort crap. If it were me in charge, I'd be like, here's the deal. The more ice cream you eat, the wiser you are.
I would love that.
There could be a better way.
Yeah, that would make my day.
This is what we've got, Jay.
This is us. We're gonna start that. We're gonna start the wise ice cream movement. the wise cream movement. I think it could work. The wise cream movement. I think it could work. I mean, but that's exactly it. That we would want that, and we often, and it is habits. It is habits. Like I've seen this in younger kids. So I grew up being given 4 chocolate products a day. And so I ate a chocolate bar, a chocolate biscuit, a chocolate ice cream, and a chocolate yogurt every single day. And so I was very overweight growing up. Now, till this day, I'm plant-based now, so I eat plant-based chocolate. But till this day, I'm still addicted to chocolate. And so when I lived as a monk, I gave it up for 3 years. And then the day I came out, the first thing I ate was chocolate, because it's just that strongly hardwired into me. So, but why I'm sharing that with people is that it is a pattern and a habit, because I see younger kids whose parents are training them to have healthier snacks like fruit or vegetables or dried fruits or whatever it may be. and you see the child sees that as a treat and a reward. So even what we see as a reward is hardwired by patterns that were framed in our childhood. So child, you know what I mean? Like, it's like, if you were congratulated by your parents every time you did something impressive, now you see being impressive as the most important thing to achieve in life.
Yes.
Or if you saw being smart as linked to a reward, then now you think you have to be smart to feel that reward again. It's an interesting thought, because I'm like, well, what should we aspire for then? Because if what we reward is what we repeat, then what is it that we should be rewarding? What do you think is a good habit or a good, and I'm just, it's just an interesting question of like, what should we reward?
It's fascinating, because when I think about that, I mean, I was like a really cute little girl, and little girls I was so damn cute, Jay. And you need to share that picture. You need to share that picture. I will. I have one around here somewhere. But here's the thing that happened. Little girls, people tend to come up to little girls and say, "You're so cute, you're so pretty." And then every little girl turns 12 or 13, which is the time where all of that ends. I mean, it's just a disaster. You just turn into, so you lose your worth, because you were taught the worthiness comes from being cute and pretty, and then you lose it all when you lose your identity. Or what we say to little boys is, be brave, be tough, be strong. And so then they get in this little cage where they're not, okay. I would love it if what we celebrated in people was the full permission and expression of all of our human characteristics. Okay, so like even the ones that are uncomfortable, because I think we're trained by our culture. We have the family thing, but everybody's trained, and especially our culture, just being happy is rewarded.
Yeah.
Just be happy. That's the goal of life. Just be happy all the damn time. We worship happiness and pleasantness, and it's like, we don't learn. I mean, I told you on the podcast, the first time I ever considered the fact that all feelings were for feeling. I thought just happiness was for feeling, and pain and rage and envy and all of those things were for numbing and deflecting and hiding and pretending we didn't have, right? That's what addiction was for me. It was just hiding and numbing all of the parts of myself I thought were unacceptable and not celebrated, right? So, to learn in recovery that like all feelings, even the uncomfortable ones, were for feeling, was revolutionary for me. And so I don't know, but I do know that with my little ones and myself, I'm just trying to celebrate every time they're brave enough to express any sort of emotion or truth or experience, even the ones that aren't celebrated.
Yeah.
I try not to even celebrate too much when they do something great.
Yeah.
Because like in school or whatever, like I got so much of my worth in school by like achieving. And so then when I didn't achieve, I felt terrible about myself.
Yeah.
So now I just feel like, yay, but like also if you suck at school, like also yay. Like I don't, my kids will be living with me till they're 50 because we've celebrated mediocrities.
I love it. No, at all. No, I see what you're saying. I'm saying, Holly just goes, just ordered your book, Glennon. Thank you so much for sharing, and Jay for introducing. I appreciate that. I really mean it. And I know a lot of people are asking. It's Untamed, so it's right here. And I put the link there, and I've tagged Glennon as well, so you can find the link in her bio too if you miss it. And so please go follow her. But Untamed is the name of the book, and everything we're talking about, Glennon talks about, like being tamed is that conditioning, is that pattern, and being untamed is letting go of those patterns, letting go of those habits, letting go of that conditioning. And what you're sharing right now, it's really interesting. So I was brought up where studies were and achievement was prioritized, but the reward to everything, whether I did good or bad, was always neutral. So it's almost like with my parents, and I don't know if it was conscious or intentional, it's just how it was. My parents always wanted me to do the best, but whether I did or not, their response would be neutral. So if I performed really well, they'd be like, okay, we expected that. And if I didn't perform really well, it was like they'd maybe have a go at me for a day and then they'd let go of it. And then they wouldn't bother about it. Like it would just go. And I really found that there was a, you know, when I was growing up, I used to have a football coach, a soccer coach, and he would always say, he was always like, if we win, we celebrate for a night, and if we lose, we cry for a day. And he goes, that's it, and then you move on. Now, I'm not saying you have to put timelines onto your pain or feelings, because I don't think you can. But I think it was interesting to have that kind of neutral approach to just like being able to feel it, and it's not about not experiencing the feeling.
That's right.
But it's about giving yourself the time. I don't think you can do that anymore with emotional pain. Losing a game of soccer, fair, but you know, feelings sometimes last a lot longer than losing a game of soccer. And so I feel like feeling that pain for as long as you need to is so important. But like you said, not over. Is there truth in this? And I want to hear your perspective on this. If you over amplify your wins, do you over amplify your pains? Is that true? And is, you know, how
I don't know.
I don't know either. I'm just, it's an interesting conversation.
What I do know is that when I started writing, I used to have these situations where I thought, okay, I will feel worthy and successful when this happens. When then that would happen, and I would tragically still be myself. Okay, so then I would just set a different bar. Okay, maybe I will feel worthy and successful when this milestone happens.
Yeah.
And what I learned over time is that never ever works. And no matter what goal I met, I would never get that feeling that I was waiting for, that would come one day. And so what I realized is that I can't put any of my decisions about my success into outcomes in any way. All I can do is put my decisions about how successful I am or not into my input. So like, I feel like I'm showing up for my craft as a writer when I show up and write.
Yeah.
But Jay, like out of the, 6 times I sit down to write, maybe once or twice I will come up with something that I feel like this is good, you know? Yeah. So if I judge my success by my output, like I just have to define success by what I show up for.
Yeah.
Right. And then I have to separate completely success from worthiness, because I can't decide that I'm worthy as a human being if I show up for my writing every day. Right?
Yes. Yeah, that makes complete sense.
Because then I start feeling like a complete loser if I'm not producing constantly.
Yeah.
So I have to have this idea of success in my work only dependent on my showing up in my output. And then I have to have my worthiness as a human completely separate from my job or my craft or my skill in any way. And maybe that's something about being a kid too. It's like we can celebrate their successes and their failures separate somehow from who they are.
Yes. I'm glad you said that. Yeah, I'm glad you said that. For a long time, I've been in my life at least seeing, and from people, like we know a lot of, we know a lot of happy people, we know a lot of joyful people, we both know a lot of successful people, like we know a lot of people. Mm-hmm. And my point is that I've started to notice that happiness, and I'm not putting happiness on a pedestal, I'm saying it's a feeling, and I define happiness by the healing of our feelings, like going through all of that and finding meaning in that healing. Like that to me is what happiness is. And so if happiness is finding meaning through your feelings, through healing, like that's how I'm defining happiness, not as the pedestal happiness of constant like elation and smiling faces. So I've just found that happiness and success are two different things. And I feel that we try to intertwine them. So we say things like, if you're happy, you're successful. I'm like, no, you're just happy. And that's great. Like there's nothing wrong with that. And we say, if you're successful, then you'll be happy. And we know that's not true. Like we've had enough experience of that. And so what I've realized is that success is success in my definition, and I believe everyone should have their own definition, because that's the only way to
Agreed.
make sense of this stuff. Like, I have my own definitions and you don't have to use mine, but I recommend everyone listening and watching right now, when you read Untamed, to create your own definitions. And you'll hear in the podcast and in the book where Glennon talks about the words that are tamed language and untamed language. And so the language we use is so important, and all that matters is you understand your own language, right? Like, that's important.
Yes.
And so when I use the word success, I do see it as achievements and results and outcomes, but I see that as separate from my happiness, because my happiness is based on who I am. And my success is based on my goals and what I want to achieve in the world. But I know that that doesn't make me happy. Right. I just know that it gives me a feeling of success. And so that, like you said, like, I see who I am and what I do as two separate things. Yeah. And I know that what I do, what my goals aren't going to make me happy. They're going to give me a feeling of feeling successful. But who I am is going to give me the greatest joy. And that's how I've made sense of it and peace with it in my, at least up till this stage in life. It may change in the next 25 years, but for now, you know, so I don't know.
Don't you think that's so important, what you just said? I would say that one of the most important things about defining what success is, what a good person, all of your decisions, is this dedication to always revising.
Yeah.
Right? Like, yes. Leaving room open for these are fluid definitions, right? Yes. We figure out what works for us on Tuesday might not be the definition we embrace on Thursday. Like, I love that idea that we decide what works for us, and then we go, we hold it loosely.
Yeah, I think that's a beautiful, I think that's the challenge. I'm missing your face, Glenn.
I know, I'm
wonderful
frozen.
Face. It's got this roll. Am I frozen too? No.
Yes.
Oh no, what happened there? I have no idea. Probably too many people on live. Hopefully you guys can all still hear us. But, you know, I love that, Glenn, because I think we have all this pressure about finding the one purpose, the one person, the one piece of advice, the one, you know, and I stopped asking that. I stopped asking that question on podcast, like, what's your one piece of advice, or what's your one, because I just realized, like, we have this obsession with the one. And the point is, like you said, like, to be honest, everything's just evolving and changing all the time.
Yeah.
Like, relationships change, people we're with change, as you talk about so wonderfully, and love evolves and grows. And our obsession with trying to keep things permanent is kind of the issue. Like, that's kind of where all of our issues come from.
That's it. That's it. I mean, what I do know is permanent is that I can always return to this sort of space inside of myself that will always guide me towards the next right thing. But
for sure,
the thing inside of me is always changing.
For sure. That is so, that in its own way makes sense to me. Everyone, I want you to go and grab this book. I've linked Glennon in my comment section. She's on the podcast On Purpose this week. She's today's episode, this week's episode. The podcast is up on iTunes, Spotify, SoundCloud, Google Play, Stitcher. And whether you listen to the podcast or not, I definitely want you to go grab a copy of this book. Glennon, I feel like through our interview last week, and I mean this, and even doing today, and I'm so grateful that you agreed to do today with your busy schedule and everything you've got going on. I really feel like I found a friend through this.
Same.
And I just want to keep having these conversations with you, because it's been a long time that I found a new friend that I can have such reflective conversations with, that I really feel when I'm talking to you, it's the most unfiltered version of myself, which I'm very grateful to find with you.
Oh, so I feel the exact same way. I don't
have that very often. The stuff I say to you, I haven't actually said very often in my reflection. And I really appreciate it. I really feel like so thank you for that. Thank you for being that for me and so many. I know you're that for millions of people, but thank you for being that for me.
Oh, Jay, thank you. And thank you for your love and support of Untamed. Thank you for being my new friend. And I hope this is just the beginning of many conversations.
Me too. Thank you, Glenn. And I'm sad I can't see you, but everyone go grab a copy of the book, Untamed. It's available right now. It's already a New York Times bestseller, like Glenn, all of our other work. And if you've not read Love Warrior, I highly recommend getting that. Get them both. You've got the time right now. Make the most of it. So, Glennon, thank you again. And I can't wait to see you after all this is over. Sending my love to Abby and the kids and everyone. And let's keep talking.
Let's do it. Thank you, Jay.
Thank you, Glenn. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful